Good morning, everyone. I am so glad you joined me again today as we continue learning about the family trees of the Old Testament. So this week we're learning about David and his many, many sons. But last week we learned about how David became the king of Israel. So if you'll remember, David was the youngest son of Jesse, and David was a shepherd boy, and they were from the tribe of Judah. And if you'll think back even a little farther, a few weeks ago, we learned about how the many tribes of Israel all got different portions of the promised land. So the tribe of Judah was in the south, and there were other tribes all around them. And when David rose to the kingship, he united all these tribes. And so he kind of pulled them all together. And like I said, David had many, many sons. And he had many sons because he had many wives. And that seems a little strange to us that he had so many wives. And we don't really do that today. But back then, you would have these wives as a way to tie all these political alliances together. So that's when you're trying to get different kingdoms and different tribes together. You might marry so they become family. So he had lots and lots of wives, like I said, and he had lots and lots of sons. And we'll talk about them in a minute, but let's talk about David just a little more right now. So David was considered a very godly man. He was very loyal to the one true God. But David also did some things that weren't great. He was a good king. He united the kingdom, and he was a powerful king. But in his personal life, he made some choices that were kind of selfish sometimes and were they were terrible. He made some terrible choices. And so because of that, he was not allowed to build the temple. God said, "You are a godly man, and I know you love me and I love you, but you won't be allowed to build the temple." So that comes into play a little bit later. But let's talk about David's sons now. So like I said, David had so many sons. And like you and your brothers or you and your sisters today, his sons were all different people. And some of them were good and some of them were bad. And some of them were partly good and partly bad. And so they all, had their own thing going on. But we can talk a little bit more about some of them. So one of the sons, an older favored son, actually hurt one of the sisters because he was not a very good person. And he hurt the sister Tamar. And Tamar is the only daughter of David that is named in the Bible. We know David had lots of other daughters, but Tamar is the one listed by name. So this older favored son hurt Tamar, and her brother Absalom went against the brother and fought him in revenge for Tamar's hurt. So that's a story about two of David's sons. Some of David's sons rebelled against him and tried to take the kingship from him. And so there was lots of infighting in David's house. And it says in the Bible that because David did some bad things, he was cursed to live the sword constantly in his house. And so maybe these things were due to the fact that David made these terrible choices. And so terrible things happened to his lineage. But anyhow, as we follow along, we go down, we see Solomon, the youngest son. And Solomon becomes the king of Israel after David. Even though David wanted one of the older sons, Solomon is the one that gets the kingship. So Solomon becomes king of Israel. And Solomon is a good and wise king. And Solomon is the one that builds the temple. So just like we've seen throughout the Old Testament, the people chosen by God are not perfect or blameless. They sometimes do really terrible things. But they love God and God loves them, and they try to follow the will of God to the best of their ability. So those are the sons of David, and like always, there's a cut and paste in the box below, and you can print it out and you can paste it. And I can't wait to see all of our family trees when we get back together. All right, have a good week. Bye.